Hello everyone. This is Six Path Weeb, and welcome to my channel. Today's fanfiction topic is, what if Sasuke was Sasuki, a reimagined take on a beloved character from the Naruto universe. Disclaimer, the content on this channel is intended for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage featured in my videos. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Let's get started. In the quiet, early morning of the Hidden Leaf Village, birds chirped softly and the sun cast golden rays across the rooftops. The villagers began their day in peace, unaware that today would mark the start of a remarkable story. In a house at the edge of the Uchiha compound, a young girl named Sasuke Uchiha tightened the straps on her sandals, her sharp eyes gleaming with determination. With raven black hair that framed her face and eyes as dark as a starless night, she looked almost identical to her brother, Itachi, except where Itachi's eyes held sadness, Sasuke still sparkled with hope. She was one of the last members of the Uchiha clan, and although she was young, the weight of her name already pressed heavily on her small shoulders. Her clan had once been proud, powerful. But all that was gone now. All that remained were memories, shadows, and a single burning goal, to grow stronger. To become the strongest. Sasuke was not like other girls her age. While others played, laughed, and braided each other's hair, Sasuke trained. She honed her throwing skills by aiming at tree stumps until the wood was covered with kunai. She sprinted through the woods until her legs trembled. And when she lay beneath the stars at night, her mind was filled with a single name, Itachi. Itachi Uchiha, her older brother, once her idol, now the shadow that haunted her dreams. He had destroyed their clan in a single night, leaving her alone with only questions and a heart full of confusion. But she didn't cry anymore. She didn't ask why. She simply vowed, one day, she would face him. But vengeance, even when quiet, can be a lonely companion. At the Ninja Academy, Sasuke stood out. Not just because of her skills, which were exceptional, but because she carried herself differently. Her silence wasn't shy, it was sharp. Her movements were precise, and her presence commanded attention. Other students admired her, whispered about her, but rarely dared to approach. That is, until Naruto Uzumaki entered her life. Naruto was loud, wild, and constantly up to something ridiculous. Where Sasuke was cool and composed, Naruto was fiery and unpredictable. But somehow, their differences clashed in the perfect way. Naruto wanted to be noticed, to be acknowledged. Sasuke just wanted to be left alone, but he refused to let her stay in her shell. "Hey, Sasuke." He'd yell across the training yard. "Bet you can't beat me in a sparring match." And every time, she'd roll her eyes, then quietly knock him flat on his back. But even then, he always got back up. He never stopped smiling. And slowly, without meaning to, Sasuke found herself curious. Why did he try so hard? Why did he never give up? She didn't realize it, but a bond had started forming. A bond neither of them would understand for a long time. Team 7 was where everything began to change. Kakashi Hatake, the cool and unreadable Jonin instructor, brought Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura Haruno together. At first, Sasuke wasn't impressed. Naruto was still annoying. Sakura was obsessed with her for reasons she didn't understand. And Kakashi? Always late, always reading his weird books. It didn't seem promising. But when Kakashi gave them their first test, the infamous bell test, Sasuke saw something that surprised her. It wasn't just about fighting. It was about teamwork. And even though she didn't say it out loud, even though she still thought she could do everything herself, part of her knew. Maybe she didn't have to. Their missions started small, rescuing cats, gathering herbs, helping farmers. But each one taught them something new. Sasuke was often the fastest, the strongest, the most precise, but she started to see that Naruto's unpredictability had value too. And Sakura, though quiet, was smart, strategic, and dependable in a crisis. Everything changed during the mission to the Land of Waves. Suddenly, it wasn't pretend anymore. Real danger, real enemies, and real fear. Sasuke faced Zabuza Momochi, a rogue ninja from the Hidden Mist, and his silent companion Haku, whose ice jutsu nearly ended everything. It was during this mission that Sasuke unlocked her Sharingan, the legendary eye technique of the Uchiha. It was also when she felt something she hadn't in years, fear. Not for herself, but for her teammates. When Naruto was in danger, when Sakura was cornered, something inside Sasuke snapped. She didn't understand it. It was more than loyalty. It was something warm, something protective, something that didn't come from vengeance, but from friendship. From family. That mission changed her. When they returned to the village, she trained harder than ever, but now, not just for revenge. She wanted to protect the people around her. She wanted to be strong enough to face Itachi, yes, but also strong enough to make sure she never lost anyone again. But the path of a ninja is never simple. As time passed, the Chunin exams approached. Sasuke felt the tension build inside her. It was time to prove herself. Not just to the village, but to herself. The exams were brutal, full of hidden traps, dangerous enemies, and moments of truth. In the forest of death, she pushed herself beyond her limits. When Orochimaru, the snake-like rogue ninja, marked her with a cursed seal, she felt pain unlike anything she'd known. But she also felt power. Dark power. Power that whispered to her. Promised her strength. Promised her the ability to defeat Itachi. And for a moment, she was tempted. But Naruto's voice, furious and desperate, snapped her out of it. "Don't you dare give in, Sasuke. You're better than this." His words echoed in her mind long after the battle ended. From then on, the struggle within her grew. Between light and darkness. Between the person she wanted to be. And the person the curse wanted her to become. And all the while, Itachi's shadow loomed. After the chaos of the Chunin exams, the Hidden Leaf village was shaken. The invasion orchestrated by Orochimaru had scarred the people and taken their beloved third Hokage. Sasuke stood in silence during the funeral, the wind tugging at the hem of her dress like battle tunic, her fists clenched. She hated Orochimaru. Hated what he'd done. But what unsettled her even more was that his offer of power still echoed in her mind. She could feel the cursed mark pulsing at the base of her neck, dormant but humming, like a quiet storm inside her skin. And sometimes, when her thoughts drifted to Itachi, to that night, she found herself wondering, what if I used it? Just once. Her friends noticed the change. Naruto, usually quick to tease or challenge her, had grown quiet around her. He watched her more closely, sensing something was different, even if he didn't know what. Sakura was gentle, always asking if she was okay, offering silent support. Even Kakashi, unreadable as always, began training her more intensely, guiding her toward self-control. He understood what the cursed mark meant. He'd seen what power like that could do. But Sasuke kept her pain buried. The stronger she got, the more distant she became. Then the moment came that shattered everything. Itachi returned to the village. He arrived like a ghost from a nightmare, calm, controlled, deadly. With Kisame by his side, Itachi cut through the defenses of the leaf with ease, searching for Naruto. For the nine-tailed fox sealed inside him. Sasuke didn't wait for orders. She ran to find him, chakra burning in her veins. Her heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. When she saw him, really saw him, standing in the hallway of a shattered inn, his face calm and unreadable, just like always. Her knees nearly gave out. But she fought. She charged at him, kunai flashing. She shouted his name. She screamed for answers. For truth. For why. But Itachi didn't flinch. He stopped her effortlessly, his Sharingan locking eyes with hers, forcing her to relive that night, the fire, the blood, her mother's eyes frozen in terror. She collapsed. Broken. Powerless. Naruto was the one who stepped forward then, shielding her with his body even though he was trembling. And Jiraiya, the Toad Sage, arrived just in time to drive Itachi and Kisame away. But the damage was done. Sasuke had seen the truth. She wasn't ready. And so began the unraveling. In the days that followed, Sasuke was quiet. Not the calm kind of quiet, this was hollow. Her strength felt like a lie. Her training, useless. She sat by the river often, staring into the water, watching the way it moved, always forward, never stopping. It was there that the Sound Four found her. They didn't threaten her. They didn't try to fight. They spoke softly, offering a path. A way to get stronger. Orochimaru could give her the power she needed, they said. Power to defeat Itachi. Power beyond anything the village could offer. And Sasuke listened. She tried to pretend she wasn't tempted. That she didn't think about it every night. But inside, she knew, if she stayed, she would always be too weak. If she left, she might lose everything. But she might also win. That night, she left the village. She stood on the wall under the moonlight, her belongings packed, her mind made up. She paused only once, when Naruto appeared behind her, panting, desperate. "Don't go," he said, his voice raw. "You don't have to do this." "You don't understand," she whispered. "This is the only way." "I'll bring you back," he said. No matter what. I promise. She didn't reply. She just turned and leapt into the trees, leaving the village, and her teammates, behind. What followed was a pursuit that would become legend. Naruto, Shikamaru, Kiba, Neji, and Choji all risked their lives to stop her from crossing into enemy territory. One by one, they faced the Sound Four, fighting with everything they had. Naruto was the last. Their battle was brutal, raw, filled with tears and fury. In the Valley of the End, beneath the towering statues of the Leaf's founders, the two fought not as enemies, but as friends on opposite sides of a broken road. You don't know what it's like, Sasuke shouted, her Sharingan blazing. To have your whole world taken. To live only for revenge. You're right. Naruto screamed back, blood running down his face. I don't. But I know what it's like to be alone. I know what it's like to want to be acknowledged. Their clash sent waves crashing around them. Rasengan met Chidori. Light met darkness. And in the end, Sasuke stood over him, victorious, but shaking. You're my friend, Naruto said through clenched teeth. Even if you leave, I'll still believe in you. Sasuke turned away. Don't, she said quietly. Don't make this harder than it already is. And then she was gone. The years that followed were filled with silence. Sasuke disappeared into Orochimaru's world, training in the shadows, mastering forbidden jutsu. But even as her power grew, so did her loneliness. Orochimaru didn't care about her heart, only her potential. The people around her were tools. She fought others like her, defeated them, surpassed them. But none of them could look her in the eye and remind her of who she had once been. Only Naruto had done that. Even when she tried to forget, her dreams betrayed her. She saw Sakura crying in the village. She saw Kakashi waiting with a book and a patient expression. She saw Naruto, smiling that stupid, endless smile. And sometimes, when she was quiet, she missed it. She missed home. But the path she'd chosen had no U-turns. She told herself that over and over. Until one day, after defeating Orochimaru himself in battle, she began to ask a question she hadn't asked in years. Now that I have power, what do I do with it? And the answer, quietly, was always the same. Find Itachi. Sasuke wandered for a time after parting ways with Orochimaru. Though she had gained strength and freedom, something still didn't feel right inside. She had reached the point she'd once dreamed of, strong enough to stand on her own, to challenge her past, but her heart still felt heavy. Each step forward reminded her of the people she had left behind. Of the warmth she had once known in Team 7. But her mission wasn't over. She formed a small team called Hebi, a group of shinobi who, like her, had their own reasons for walking an uncertain path. Suigetsu, the fast-talking swordsman who loved a challenge, Karen, an expert tracker with strong opinions and a soft spot for Sasuke, and Hugo, quiet and kind, though sometimes struggling with his emotions. They weren't exactly friends, not yet, but they became something close. Teammates. Comrades. Together, they searched for Itachi, not with anger, but with purpose. Sasuke needed answers, needed to face the truth. Not just about him, but about herself. When the day finally came, Sasuke found her older brother waiting in an ancient stone hideout, hidden among high cliffs and trees. It was a quiet place, full of shadows and echoes from long ago. There were no crowds, no fighting forces, just the two of them, as if the world had paused for this moment. I knew you'd come, he said gently. I had too, Sasuke replied. I need to understand. Their battle was more than a contest of strength. It was a test of spirit and will. Fire and lightning lit up the cavern walls, and their Sharingan eyes gleamed with determination. They moved quickly, precisely, almost like dancers, each attack a question, each defense an answer. They weren't trying to hurt each other, they were trying to reach something neither of them could say out loud. In the end, Itachi approached her slowly, his strength fading. But there was a soft smile on his face. He reached out and gently tapped her forehead, just like he had when they were children. Maybe now. You'll understand, he said quietly. Then he closed his eyes, not from harm, but from exhaustion, as if his mission was finally complete. Sasuke stood there in silence, her heart full of questions. She hadn't won. There was nothing to win. But something had changed. And then came the truth. A masked man named Tobi appeared soon after. He spoke of the past, of the Uchiha clan, and of choices made long ago. Sasuke learned that Itachi had carried a great burden, not because he wanted to, but because he had been asked to protect peace in the village. He had made hard decisions so that others could live freely. He had lived in the shadows so she could walk in the light. Sasuke didn't feel angry. Not at him. She felt something deeper, a wish that things had been different. A wish that no one would have to make those kinds of choices again. She sat quietly for a while, thinking. When she finally stood, she had made a new decision, not one based on revenge, but on change. If there was a system that forced people to suffer in silence, then it needed to be fixed. The world needed to be better. So she changed her team's name from Hebi to Taka, the Hawk. A new symbol for a new mission, not just to face the past, but to protect the future. Before she could act, however, the world shifted. The Akatsuki organization began to move openly, seeking out powerful creatures known as tailed beasts. Villages everywhere were in danger. And the masked man, now calling himself Madara, revealed a plan to trap the entire world in an illusion called the Infinite Tsukiyomi, where everyone would live in a dream, never facing hardship again. It sounded peaceful. But it wasn't real. Sasuke knew the world needed healing, not hiding. The 5 great nations came together, forming an alliance. Enemies became allies. Old rivalries were set aside. And standing at the center of it all was Naruto Uzumaki, no longer the goofy kid who shouted across the training yard, but a powerful young shinobi who never gave up on his friends. When Sasuke heard Naruto was fighting for the world, not just for the leaf, something inside her stirred. Maybe, just maybe. He had been right all along. She arrived on the battlefield not as a threat, but as an ally. Her appearance shocked everyone. Sakura gasped. Kakashi's visible eye widened. And Naruto? He just smiled. Took you long enough, he said. Sasuke gave a small nod. I'm here now. They fought side by side, Sasuke and Naruto, equals in strength and spirit. Their teamwork was like breathing, natural and powerful. The world watched as 2 of the youngest shinobi stood together, challenging fate itself. They faced Madara, deflected danger, and protected everyone they could. When the battle was over, when the sky finally cleared and the sun returned, Sasuke stood quietly among the other heroes. She wasn't seeking praise. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She had simply done what she believed was right. But Naruto walked up to her anyway. You did good, he said. Really good. Sasuke didn't say anything at first. Then, quietly, you never gave up on me. I couldn't, he said. You're my friend. And for the first time in a long while, Sasuke smiled. After the war, the world began to heal. The villages started working together, building bridges instead of walls. Sasuke didn't return to the leaf right away. She traveled instead, walking from village to village, helping where she could, learning about the world not through battle, but through kindness. She saw the ways people suffered, and how they overcame it. She helped rebuild houses, stopped small conflicts, and taught children how to focus their chakra. Sometimes, she would get letters, Naruto's handwriting, messy and excited, telling her about the latest thing happening back home. Sakura wrote too, often including drawings from the hospital where she worked. Even Kakashi sent messages, always signed with a little doodle of a dog in sunglasses. Sasuke didn't write back often. But she kept every letter. And when she finally returned to the leaf, years later, walking through the gates quietly, a little taller, a little calmer, she found them all waiting for her. Naruto grinned. Told you you'd come home. Sasuke looked around the village. It wasn't perfect. There was still work to be done. But it was hers. It was theirs. And for the first time, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she belonged. She wasn't just the last Uchiha. She was Sasuke. A ninja. A friend. A protector of peace. A new morning. The sun rose softly over the hidden leaf village, spilling golden light across tiled rooftops and gently fluttering banners. The smell of freshly steamed buns drifted from the bakery near the main gate, and the peaceful rhythm of brooms sweeping storefronts filled the quiet streets. For the first time in a long time, Sasuke didn't wake to training alarms, tense meetings, or missions. She blinked against the sunlight, lying in a quiet corner room above a tea house she had been staying in since returning to Konoha. The walls were decorated with bamboo prints, and there was a wind chime by the window that made a soft sound whenever a breeze passed through. She sat up slowly, brushed her long dark hair behind her shoulder, and stretched. No fighting today, she reminded herself aloud, and even saying it felt strange. She was still getting used to this new chapter, this softer, quieter life. The part of her that had always been chasing something, power, truth, revenge, was learning how to be still. There was a knock on her door. Oi, Sasuke. A familiar voice called through the wall. "Are you up yet?" She opened the door to find Naruto standing there, holding 2 rice balls and a wide grin. He looked exactly the same. And yet not. His headband was still slightly crooked, and he still wore orange, but there was a calmness in his eyes now. Like he wasn't trying so hard to prove himself anymore. "I brought breakfast," he said proudly. "Well, kinda. Ichiraku was closed, so I stopped at that stand near the river." Sasuke stared at the slightly squished rice balls. "Did you sit on them?" she asked. "Hey, it's the thought that counts." She gave a small, rare smile, and accepted one anyway. They sat on the edge of the teahouse roof, legs swinging freely, eating in silence. Birds chirped. The village was already beginning to bustle with morning life, kids running to the academy, shopkeepers shouting out specials, elderly villagers watering flowers along their porches. It was so ordinary. So wonderfully normal. "You okay?" Naruto asked, glancing at her. Sasuke nodded. "I think. I'm learning how to be." A visit to the academy. A few days later, Iruka-sensei invited Sasuke to visit the ninja academy, not as a student, but as a guest. "We're doing a lesson on role models," he said cheerfully. "And, well, the kids are curious about you." Sasuke blinked. "About me?" Iruka smiled. "You're a hero now, you know. The quiet kind. That makes them even more curious." She didn't quite know how to feel about that, but curiosity won over hesitation. When she stepped into the classroom, 30 pairs of wide eyes turned toward her. One hand shot up immediately. "Is it true you fought 100 ninja by yourself?" "No," Sasuke said flatly. "Oh," the student mumbled. "What about 70? Naruto, seated at the back, tried, and failed, to stifle a laugh. She ended up spending the entire morning with them, not talking about battles, but about training, teamwork, and how important it was to understand your own feelings. One girl asked how she stayed calm under pressure. "I didn't always," Sasuke said truthfully. "But I learned that being strong doesn't mean hiding how you feel. It means learning how to carry it without hurting others." That answer led to a lot of thoughtful silence. When the class ended, Iruka handed her a small envelope. "Some of the kids drew pictures for you." Inside were colorful sketches: Sasuke with wings, Sasuke with flowers, Sasuke and Naruto eating ice cream. She held them quietly, heart warm. Afternoon at the training grounds. Later that week, Sasuke met Sakura at the old training grounds. Not for combat, but to help with Sakura's new project, a fitness and focus program for younger Junon. "I've got too many kids who think training is about throwing kunai and looking cool," Sakura explained. "I want them to understand discipline, patience, and taking care of their bodies too." Sasuke helped run breathing exercises and stretching drills while Sakura gave advice on chakra control. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't intense. But at the end of the day, a 10-year-old with wild hair and lopsided sandals ran up to Sasuke and beamed. "I never thought I could do anything right in training," he said. "But today was fun. I want to get better." Sasuke looked down at him and, without thinking, ruffled his hair. "You will." She surprised herself with how much that moment meant to her. Evenings with Kakashi. Some evenings, she would find herself walking to the small park near the Hokage's office, where Kakashi sometimes read in the shade. He always had a spare drink, usually tea or a peach soda, and an extra seat. "I don't talk much," she told him one evening. Kakashi flipped a page. "Neither do I." And that was that. They sat in comfortable silence, sometimes broken by a shared observation, a memory, or a thoughtful question. "I'm still figuring out who I am," she admitted once. Kakashi nodded. "That's what peaceful times are for." Peaceful adventures await. And so, life continued, not with battles, but with moments. Sasuke helped a local carpenter repair rooftops after a windstorm. She taught a child how to sharpen pencils with precision chakra. She helped Naruto find a lost cat, even though it ended with him getting scratched and tumbling into a koi pond. She wasn't chasing revenge anymore. She was discovering joy. And she was writing her own story, quiet, simple, full of warm afternoons and slow walks through the market. She was no longer the girl haunted by shadows. She was Sasuke Uchiha, student, friend, explorer of peace. The day began innocently enough. The sky was bright, clouds floating lazily like marshmallows. Birds chirped. Somewhere in the distance, someone shouted about buying the last mango from the fruit stand. It was a day for relaxing. For peace. But Naruto Uzumaki had other plans. "Alright, team," he declared, arms flung wide like he was announcing a world mission. "Today's mission is the most important one yet, Operation Ultimate Ramen Combo Order Deluxe." Sasuke blinked. "That doesn't sound like an actual mission." Sakura groaned and crossed her arms. "You dragged us all out here for ramen?" "No," Naruto said, holding up a hand. "Not just ramen. The ramen challenge. There's a new menu at Ichiraku. Limited edition. Super secret. Rumor has it, no one's been able to finish the ramen tower bowl yet." "I heard the bowl is the size of a bathtub," Konohamaru added, appearing suddenly, holding a tiny notepad. "I've been taking notes." "And you want us to try it?" Sasuke raised a brow. No, Naruto said, already walking backwards toward the shop. "I want me to try it. But I need moral support. And probably a wheelbarrow if I can't stand up afterward." Sasuke exchanged a glance with Sakura. "We're actually doing this?" Sakura sighed. "He's not going to stop unless we supervise him." They followed him. Inside Ichiraku. Ichiraku's was buzzing with customers. The familiar scent of miso, soy broth, and grilled scallions filled the air. Tucci, the owner, greeted them with a smile. "Ah. Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke, welcome back." Ayame peeked from behind the counter. "Oh no. You're here for the tower bowl, aren't you?" Naruto's eyes gleamed. "You bet I am." Ayame handed him a wooden paddle. "Sign this waiver first. Last person who tried didn't make it past layer 5 and fell asleep on the floor." Naruto signed immediately. Sasuke, meanwhile, sat neatly at the counter, already sipping warm tea. Sakura sat beside her. "He's going to regret this." "Absolutely," Sasuke said. The ramen tower appears. With a fanfare of gongs, played by Konohamaru using 2 ladles and a pot, Ayame and Tucci brought out the ramen tower bowl. It was glorious. Layered noodles. Broths of varying colors. Floating eggs like golden moons. Seaweed arranged into decorative spirals. A mountain of toppings that could feed half the village. Naruto cracked his knuckles. This is it. The final boss of ramen. He picked up his chopsticks. Ready. Go. Chaos ensues. Naruto slurped with impressive speed. The first 3 layers disappeared in minutes. But by layer 4, things got complicated. "Why is it suddenly spicy?" he gasped, steam rising from his ears. Sasuke peered at the broth. "I think you hit the chili miso zone." Layer 5 had pickled garlic. Layer 6 had jelly cubes for some reason. Layer 7 wobbled suspiciously. Sakura leaned over. "Did that layer just giggle?" Konohamaru took notes. "This is better than science class." By layer 8, Naruto was slowing down. His eyes were spinning slightly. "I believe in ramen," he mumbled. "You believed in too much ramen," Sasuke said. Naruto reached for a dumpling and accidentally flung it across the shop. It bounced off a napkin holder, pinged off the wall, and landed squarely in Sasuke's tea. She stared at the tea. The dumpling floated innocently. The shop went quiet. Sasuke raised her eyes. Slowly. Naruto froze. Reflexes. Haha. And ninja training. Sasuke stood up. Everyone backed away. Sasuke picked up the dumpling and ate it. Naruto blinked. "Wait, what?" "You wasted it," she said. "I'm not letting food go to waste." "Respect," said Tucci. The Great Noodle Battle. Just then, Rock Lee burst through the curtain dramatically. "I heard someone has accepted the tower challenge." Sasuke leaned to Sakura. "Why is he glowing?" "Don't ask." Lee pointed. "Naruto. Allow me to assist." He pulled out a pair of custom training chopsticks and sat down beside him. "Wait, Lee, you're not part of this team," Naruto exclaimed. "I am now," Lee declared. "For youth." They slurped in tandem. Sasuke and Sakura just watched, drinking tea. Layer 9 was sticky. Layer 10 was made of cold noodles that had somehow turned into a jello cube tower. Naruto looked uncertain. "I don't even know what this is anymore." Sasuke looked at him flatly. "It's your dream, remember?" He sighed. "Right. Lee cheered. Never give up. Never surrender to carbs. Dash. Final moments of the ramen tower. Layer 11 was terrifying. It involved green mystery sauce. Chuchi refused to identify it. Naruto lifted his chopsticks one last time. This is for Konoha. Slurp. He finished. The ramen bowl was empty. Then he fell backward and landed on Konohamaru, who made a muffled "he's so heavy" sound from underneath. Ayame clapped politely. You did it. Somehow. Chuchi handed him a tiny medal shaped like a noodle. You are now a ramen tower champion. Naruto, lying on the floor, held the medal to the sky. Worth it. Dash. Sasuke's turn? Later, as they cleaned up and Naruto was resting on a bench, Sasuke casually turned to Chuchi. I'll take a regular miso bowl. Extra scallions. Coming right up, he said. Sakura blinked. You're actually eating after that? I didn't eat the tower bowl, Sasuke replied calmly. I like food I can taste. She took one bite, closed her eyes slightly, and let the warmth of the ramen settle into her. Sakura watched, amused. Maybe you're the real ramen master here. Sasuke smirked. Maybe. They left Ichiraku that evening as the sky turned orange with sunset. Naruto was being rolled in a borrowed laundry cart because he still couldn't walk. Konohamaru was shouting, "Make way for the ramen hero." Lee was singing a song about perseverance and miso broth. And Sasuke? She walked beside her friends, feeling light. There was no mission. No danger. Just laughter and warm soup and the feeling that, somehow, she had found exactly what she didn't know she needed. A peaceful day with friends. And a really good bowl of ramen. Sasuke had never been much of a pet person. Growing up with the weight of her clan's history and her own ambitions, there had rarely been time, or space, for something as simple as caring for an animal. But when Konohamaru asked her if she could watch over his ninja cat, Tama, for the day, Sasuke hesitated only briefly before agreeing. It wasn't a mission, it wasn't a fight, just a quiet favor for a friend, and somehow that felt different, good different. Tama was not your average cat. With sleek black fur that shimmered like the night sky and bright green eyes that seemed to sparkle with mischief, Tama was a spirited little ninja in his own right. Konohamaru warned her with a grin, he's quick, sneaky, and loves to disappear when you least expect it. Sasuke nodded, feeling a flicker of amusement. She wasn't sure what to expect but was ready for anything. The moment Tama was released from his travel cage, he darted across the room like a shadow, knocking over a vase in the process. Sasuke winced but caught the vase before it shattered. Easy there, she said softly, but Tama had already vanished behind the curtains. She followed cautiously, feeling oddly entertained by this chase. It was nothing like the dangers she was used to, but it was exciting in its own small way. Tama appeared perched on the top shelf of her bookcase, tail flicking lazily as if daring her to try and reach him. Sasuke considered her options and then climbed carefully onto a chair, stretching to grab the cat. Tama slipped through her fingers at the last second and leapt gracefully to the floor. Sasuke laughed quietly, a rare sound that surprised even her. You're fast, she admitted, crouching to meet Tama's gaze. For the rest of the morning, Sasuke found herself following Tama all around the small apartment, under tables, behind cushions, and even into the tiny garden on the balcony where Tama batted at fluttering leaves and chased a particularly persistent butterfly. She watched him with gentle amusement, noticing how the simple joy in his movements was infectious. It reminded her of the time she had watched the cherry blossoms fall as a child, moments of beauty she had almost forgotten. As afternoon sunlight streamed through the window, Sasuke sat on the floor while Tama settled in her lap, purring softly. It was a strange feeling, this warmth spreading through her chest, a quiet comfort that had nothing to do with power or victory. She stroked the cat's fur slowly and realized that caring for something so small and alive didn't make her weak. If anything, it made her feel more connected, to the village, to her friends, and to herself. The doorbell rang suddenly, making Tama jump and scramble off her lap with a startled meow. Sasuke rose to answer it and found Konohamaru standing there, looking relieved and a little sheepish. Thanks for watching him, he said quickly. I was worried he'd cause too much trouble. Sasuke smiled gently. He's more trouble than I expected, but that's not a bad thing. She glanced back at Tama, who was now calmly sitting by the window, watching the world outside with wide eyes. He reminds me that sometimes, the quietest moments are the most important. Konohamaru smiled, clearly glad to see Tama safe and sound. Yeah, he has a way of turning a boring day into an adventure. He scratched behind Tama's ears, and the cat immediately rolled onto his back, purring louder than ever. Sasuke watched the scene with a soft expression, feeling a warmth spread inside her chest that wasn't there before. It was strange to think how something so small, a simple ninja cat, could bring such a peaceful feeling. As Konohamaru prepared to leave, Tama suddenly darted past him and slipped out the open door. Sasuke's eyes widened, and without thinking, she dashed after the little shadow. "Tama!" she called, but the cat was quick, weaving through the nearby market stalls and disappearing behind a cluster of crates. Sasuke paused, catching her breath, then carefully stepped between the stalls, scanning for any sign of the nimble feline. The villagers around her were busy with their daily routines, children laughing, merchants shouting friendly greetings, but Sasuke's focus was solely on finding Tama. She spotted a flash of black fur near a group of colorful baskets, and quietly crept closer. There was Tama, perched atop a crate, batting playfully at a loose ribbon tied to a basket handle. He looked as if he owned the place, his tail flicking with contentment. Sasuke smiled and slowly reached out her hand. "Come on, little ninja. Time to go home." Tama regarded her for a moment, then leapt down and nuzzled her palm. Sasuke's smile deepened, feeling a connection grow stronger. It wasn't about missions or strength anymore. It was about moments like this, quiet, simple, and full of life. Carrying Tama back to the apartment, Sasuke felt lighter than she had in a long time. The cat curled up in her arms, purring softly, and she realized that maybe taking care of others, no matter how small, was its own kind of strength. The kind that built friendships, healed old wounds, and made even the quietest days shine bright. Sasuke's small apartment was a quiet sanctuary tucked away in one of the quieter lanes of the Hidden Leaf village. Unlike the grand houses of some clans, or the bustling homes near the village center, her place was simple, clean lines, soft colors, and just enough space for what she needed. When she first returned to the village, she had thought it would feel strange, like stepping back into a past that was closed off forever. But over time, this small space had become hers, not just a roof over her head, but a place to breathe, think, and simply be. The walls were decorated with things she had gathered slowly, pieces that told a story of who she was now, rather than who she had been. A painting of a lone tree in bloom hung beside the window, its branches spreading wide against a sky of soft pinks and purples. It reminded her of the old cherry blossom tree in the village park, one she had sat under as a child, feeling both lonely and hopeful. Nearby, a small shelf held a handful of books, some old ninja training manuals she still reread from time to time, but mostly stories she had picked up from friends or borrowed from the village library. Tales of heroes, of journeys, and quiet moments much like her own. On the corner table was a simple wooden box where she kept small treasures, a smooth stone from a river she had visited, a feather she had found during a walk through the forest, a pressed flower from the last village festival. These little things reminded her to notice the beauty in everyday life, the kind of beauty that didn't come from power or victory, but from simply existing. Her clothes were neatly folded in a chest by the door. Unlike the black and blue of her old shinobi attire, she now preferred softer colors, light grays, gentle blues, and sometimes a splash of lavender. They were comfortable and easy to move in, perfect for quiet mornings and slow walks through the village. She kept her old ninja headband folded in a drawer, not because she had forgotten her past, but because she no longer needed to wear her identity on her sleeve. Sasuke was learning that who she was inside was stronger than any symbol she could carry. Mornings began slowly. She liked to wake just as the sun was rising, when the village was still wrapped in a soft hush. The gentle sound of birdsong and the faint clatter of merchants setting up their stalls was her alarm clock. After stretching quietly, she would brew a cup of green tea, savoring the warm, earthy taste as she watched sunlight spill through the window. Sometimes, she read, other times, she simply sat and thought, letting her mind wander over memories and hopes for the future. Her days were never exactly the same, but there was a comforting rhythm to them. She might spend the morning helping at the local herbalist shop, learning about plants and remedies that had nothing to do with chakra or battle. The herbalist, a kind woman with silver hair and gentle eyes, taught Sasuke how to prepare teas that soothed tired muscles and helped with restful sleep. Sasuke found she enjoyed the quiet work, the careful folding of leaves, the measuring of powders. It grounded her. Afternoons were often spent wandering the village or nearby woods, sometimes with Naruto or Sakura, sometimes alone. She liked to explore hidden corners, small gardens, streams, places where the world felt untouched and soft. She took to carrying a small sketchbook, drawing the scenes that caught her eye, a cluster of wildflowers, a child playing with a kite, the pattern of sunlight through leaves. Drawing was new to her, a way to capture moments without words or battles. Evenings were reserved for simple pleasures. Sasuke often cooked for herself, enjoying the process of preparing food slowly and thoughtfully. She wasn't a master chef, but she liked trying out recipes shared by friends or reading through old village cookbooks. Her favorite dish was a light vegetable stew with rice and pickled plums, a humble meal, but one that warmed her from the inside out. Sometimes, she invited friends over. Naruto was always enthusiastic about eating whatever she made, Sakura would bring dessert, and Kakashi occasionally dropped by with a new book or a quiet smile. There was a small garden outside her apartment, just big enough for a few pots of herbs and flowers. Sasuke tended it carefully, finding peace in watching the plants grow day by day. She liked the way green life reminded her that even after cold winters, warmth and growth could return. She had planted some lavender and chamomile for their calming scents, as well as small tomatoes and peppers that ripened slowly in the sun. Sasuke's life was no longer about rushing or fighting. It was about noticing, the way the wind whispered through the leaves, the sound of children's laughter drifting from the village square, the taste of fresh tea on her tongue. It was a life where she was free to be curious, gentle, and patient. And with each passing day, she felt more whole. She often thought about her past, not with anger or pain, but with a quiet understanding. The things she had done, the mistakes she had made, they were a part of her, but they did not define her. She was learning to forgive herself, slowly, and to trust that she could build something new. Sometimes, when the village was calm and the stars came out, Sasuke would sit by her window, watching the night sky. The constellations looked the same as they had when she was a child, but now she saw them differently, not as distant goals or burdens, but as gentle lights guiding her path. And through it all, Tama, the ninja cat, had become a small but steady companion. Whether chasing shadows or curling up beside her during quiet moments, Tama reminded Sasuke that life was full of surprises, and sometimes the smallest friends could bring the greatest joy. Sasuke often found herself lost in thought during the quiet moments between her daily tasks. It was in these pauses, the gentle rustle of leaves outside her window, the soft hum of the village settling into evening, that her mind would wander, tracing the paths she had traveled and the ones still waiting ahead. Sometimes, these reflections surprised her, filling her with feelings she wasn't quite used to, hope, curiosity, and a growing sense of calm that hadn't been there before. She thought about her family, the Uchiha clan, and the weight their name carried. For so long, that weight had pressed down on her like a shadow, heavy and unyielding. But now, in this peaceful chapter of her life, the shadow seemed less daunting. It was still there, a part of her history, but it no longer defined every step she took. Instead, Sasuke found herself wondering what it meant to carry her family's legacy not as a burden, but as a part of her story, something she could shape with kindness and courage. Sometimes, she remembered the fierce battles and the moments of loneliness, the times she had felt lost and angry. At first, those memories brought a sting, but over time, they had softened. They had taught her important lessons, about strength, forgiveness, and the power of choosing a different path. Sasuke realized that she was not the same person who had once believed power was everything. Now, she understood that true strength came from within, from patience, understanding, and the connections she built with others. She often thought about her friends, especially Naruto and Sakura. Their bright energy and unwavering support had been constant through her journey, like a steady light guiding her through dark forests. Sasuke sometimes marveled at how they never gave up on her, even when she struggled to accept herself. She felt gratitude deep in her heart, a quiet, steady gratitude that made her want to be better, not just for herself, but for them too. Sometimes, when she was alone, Sasuke wondered what the future might hold. Not the grand, heroic future she had once imagined, but a simpler one, filled with moments of laughter, shared meals, quiet walks under the stars. She wasn't sure where the path would lead, but that uncertainty no longer frightened her. Instead, it sparked a gentle excitement. There was so much to learn, so much to discover about the world and about herself. She reflected on the small things that brought her joy, the warmth of sunlight on her face, the taste of freshly brewed tea, the soft purring of Tama curled up beside her. These simple pleasures, once overlooked, now felt like treasures. They reminded her that happiness wasn't something far away or difficult to find, it was woven into the fabric of everyday life, waiting to be noticed and cherished. Sasuke also thought about the mistakes she had made. But rather than feeling shame, she chose to see them as stepping stones, moments that had shaped her, taught her humility, and opened her heart. She knew she wouldn't be perfect, and that was okay. What mattered was that she kept trying, kept growing, and kept choosing kindness. At night, before sleep came, Sasuke sometimes looked up at the stars and whispered quiet hopes into the darkness. She hoped for peace, for friendship, and for the strength to face whatever challenges might come with a gentle heart. And as the village settled into a hush, she felt a sense of belonging, a feeling that, finally, she was home. Not just in this place, but in herself. The soft morning light spilled gently through the thin curtains of Sasuke's apartment, casting warm stripes across the wooden floor. Sasuke stirred awake, the quiet chirping of birds outside her window blending with the distant hum of the village coming to life. She blinked slowly, stretching her arms above her head, savoring the calm start to her day. For a moment, she simply lay there, feeling the peaceful silence wrap around her like a soft blanket. After a deep breath, she slid out of bed and padded across the room to the small kitchen nook. The kettle whistled softly as the water boiled, filling the air with a familiar warmth. Sasuke poured the hot water over the tea leaves in her favorite cup, watching the rich green color swirl and deepen. She cradled the cup in her hands, letting the gentle steam warm her face as she gazed out the window. Outside, the village was beginning to bustle with life. Merchants set up their stalls, children chased each other down the cobbled streets, and neighbors exchanged cheerful greetings. Sasuke smiled softly to herself, feeling connected to the quiet rhythm of the morning. This simple scene was far from the chaos she once knew, and she found comfort in its steady, gentle pace. Finishing her tea, Sasuke dressed in comfortable clothes, a soft gray tunic and loose pants that allowed her to move easily. She tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear, then glanced around her small but cozy apartment. A few potted plants lined the windowsill, their leaves reaching for the sun, and the scent of lavender filled the air. She felt a quiet pride in the care she gave to this little space. It was a reflection of who she was now, calm, steady, and thoughtful. Stepping outside, Sasuke took a deep breath of fresh morning air. The village smelled of earth and flowers and the faint hint of smoke from breakfast fires. She set off toward the herbalist's shop, a slow, peaceful walk that gave her time to observe the world around her. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves overhead, and she smiled as a butterfly fluttered past, its wings a bright splash of yellow. At the shop, the herbalist greeted her with a warm smile. Together, they sorted through bundles of fresh herbs and dried flowers, discussing their uses and preparing mixtures for villagers who stopped by with small ailments. Sasuke enjoyed the steady rhythm of this work, the way her hands moved with purpose and care, the soothing scent of chamomile and mint. It was a far cry from the battles and missions of her past, but it felt meaningful in a new way. Later, Sasuke wandered to the village square, where children played near the fountain and villagers bartered for fresh fruits and vegetables. She paused to watch a group of young ninjas practicing their moves, their laughter ringing bright in the air. Watching them reminded her of her own training days, full of determination and dreams. But now, her dreams were quieter, centered on peace and friendship rather than rivalry or power. As the sun climbed higher, Sasuke found a shaded bench and pulled out her sketchbook. With careful strokes, she captured the scene before her, the curve of the fountain's stone edge, the flutter of a bird's wing, the bright smiles of the children. Drawing helped her slow down and notice the little details, the way sunlight danced on water, the soft curve of a flower petal, the gentle sway of trees in the breeze. By afternoon, the warmth of the day urged her back home. She cooked a simple meal, humming softly as she stirred vegetables in a pot and prepared rice. The familiar routine brought a sense of peace, a reminder that life didn't have to be complicated to be beautiful. As evening settled, Sasuke sat by her window with Tama curled comfortably in her lap. She watched the sky turn from gold to pink to deep blue, the first stars twinkling gently. The village lights flickered on, and the world grew quiet once again. In that moment, Sasuke felt a deep, steady happiness, not because her life was perfect, but because it was hers. Full of small joys, gentle moments, and the promise of tomorrow. The soft morning light spilled gently through the thin curtains of Sasuke's apartment, casting warm stripes across the wooden floor. Sasuke stirred awake, the quiet chirping of birds outside her window blending with the distant hum of the village coming to life. She blinked slowly, stretching her arms above her head, savoring the calm start to her day. For a moment, she simply lay there, feeling the peaceful silence wrap around her like a soft blanket. After a deep breath, she slid out of bed and padded across the room to the small kitchen nook. The kettle whistled softly as the water boiled, filling the air with a familiar warmth. Sasuke poured the hot water over the tea leaves in her favorite cup, watching the rich green color swirl and deepen. She cradled the cup in her hands, letting the gentle steam warm her face as she gazed out the window. Outside, the village was beginning to bustle with life. Merchants set up their stalls, children chased each other down the cobbled streets, and neighbors exchanged cheerful greetings. Sasuke smiled softly to herself, feeling connected to the quiet rhythm of the morning. This simple scene was far from the chaos she once knew, and she found comfort in its steady, gentle pace. Finishing her tea, Sasuke dressed in comfortable clothes, a soft gray tunic and loose pants that allowed her to move easily. She tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear, then glanced around her small but cozy apartment. A few potted plants lined the windowsill, their leaves reaching for the sun, and the scent of lavender filled the air. She felt a quiet pride in the care she gave to this little space. It was a reflection of who she was now, calm, steady, and thoughtful. Stepping outside, Sasuke took a deep breath of fresh morning air. The village smelled of earth and flowers and the faint hint of smoke from breakfast fires. She set off toward the herbalist's shop, a slow, peaceful walk that gave her time to observe the world around her. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves overhead, and she smiled as a butterfly fluttered past, its wings a bright splash of yellow. At the shop, the herbalist greeted her with a warm smile. Together, they sorted through bundles of fresh herbs and dried flowers, discussing their uses and preparing mixtures for villagers who stopped by with small ailments. Sasuke enjoyed the steady rhythm of this work, the way her hands moved with purpose and care, the soothing scent of chamomile and mint. It was a far cry from the battles and missions of her past, but it felt meaningful in a new way. Later, Sasuke wandered to the village square, where children played near the fountain and villagers bartered for fresh fruits and vegetables. She paused to watch a group of young ninjas practicing their moves, their laughter ringing bright in the air. Watching them reminded her of her own training days, full of determination and dreams. But now, her dreams were quieter, centered on peace and friendship rather than rivalry or power. As the sun climbed higher, Sasuke found a shaded bench and pulled out her sketchbook. With careful strokes, she captured the scene before her, the curve of the fountain's stone edge, the flutter of a bird's wing, the bright smiles of the children. Drawing helped her slow down and notice the little details, the way sunlight danced on water, the soft curve of a flower petal, the gentle sway of trees in the breeze. Just as she finished sketching a playful scene of a child tossing a paper crane into the fountain, a soft rustling sound came from behind her. Turning around, Sasuke blinked in surprise to see Tama, the ninja cat she had been pet-sitting, wearing a tiny, handmade ninja headband tied carefully around his little head. The cat's green eyes sparkled mischievously as he crouched in a perfect ninja stance, tail flicking with excitement. Sasuke couldn't help but laugh quietly. "Did you sneak that from Konohamaru?" she asked softly. Tama meowed in response, then sprang lightly onto her lap, brushing his head against her hand. Suddenly, a few children nearby noticed Tama's new accessory and gathered around, their faces full of wonder and delight. "Look! Tama is a real ninja now," one exclaimed, clapping her hands. Sasuke smiled warmly, feeling the light-hearted joy ripple through the afternoon air. In that playful moment, she realized that even the smallest twists in a quiet day could bring unexpected happiness and a fresh sense of connection. When she returned home that evening, Tama proudly wore his tiny headband, trotting around the apartment like a little ninja guardian. Sasuke watched him with gentle affection, feeling grateful for the surprises that made life sparkle in new ways. Sasuke's apartment held a special corner dedicated to her creative side, a small vanity table with a mirror framed by delicate lantern lights. Every morning, this was her sanctuary. She carefully selected from an array of soft-colored powders, blushes, and lip tints, each one chosen to brighten her day without overpowering her natural look. It was her secret ritual, a way to nurture herself quietly after years of hardship. The brushes felt smooth and familiar between her fingers as she swept a gentle rose shade onto her cheeks. To anyone watching, it might seem like a small thing, but for Sasuke, it was a form of self-expression and kindness to herself. The colors reflected her mood, sometimes calm blues, other times soft pinks or shimmering golds, each shade telling a little story about how she felt that morning. Beyond the makeup, Sasuke's wardrobe was another treasure trove of stories. Carefully hung on wooden hangers were outfits she'd collected or made herself, each piece chosen with care. She wasn't interested in flashy garments, instead, she preferred clothes that spoke of comfort and quiet elegance. Lightweight scarves with subtle patterns, tunics with embroidered vines, and pants made from breathable fabrics made up her favorite collection. Sasuke often enjoyed arranging her clothes by color, the soft palette of creams, grays, and gentle greens creating a peaceful sight. It was as if her wardrobe was a reflection of the person she was becoming, balanced, thoughtful, and quietly confident. One afternoon, as she prepared to meet some friends, Sasuke picked a lavender top with delicate lace at the collar. She paired it with simple, dark trousers that allowed her to move freely but still feel put together. Looking in the mirror, she adjusted the light peach tint on her lips and smiled. Today wasn't about battles or missions, it was about being herself, surrounded by people who cared. Her friends sometimes teased her playfully about her attention to detail, but Sasuke didn't mind. She knew these little habits made her feel grounded and happy. More than that, she hoped that by sharing this side of herself, she might inspire others to find joy in the simple things that made them unique. Later, as she walked through the village streets, Sasuke felt the soft fabric of her clothes brush against her skin, and the light shimmer on her eyelids catch the sun. She realized that these quiet moments, her makeup, her clothes, her thoughtful choices, were small acts of bravery, a way to reclaim her story and celebrate who she truly was. One sunny afternoon, Sasuke invited Sakura and Ino over to her apartment for a little get-together. The three friends settled comfortably in Sasuke's cozy living room, surrounded by the soft glow of lanterns and the scent of lavender from her plants. Sasuke felt a happy flutter in her chest. She was excited to share something special with them. "I have something fun to show you," Sasuke said, smiling shyly as she led them to her vanity table. She opened the drawers, revealing her collection of makeup, gentle powders, colorful brushes, and lip tints that sparkled like tiny stars. Sakura's eyes widened in surprise. "I had no idea you liked this stuff, Sasuke. It's so pretty." Ino grinned. "Yeah. You always look so calm and put together. I bet you're great at this." Sasuke nodded, feeling her cheeks warm. "I like it because it helps me feel happy and confident. It's kind of like art, but on your own face." Giggling, Sakura sat down in front of the mirror. "Can you teach me? I want to try something soft and sparkly." With gentle patience, Sasuke showed her how to apply a light dusting of blush and a soft shimmer on her eyelids. Sakura watched in delight as her reflection changed, glowing with a new, gentle light. Next, Ino pulled out a scarf from Sasuke's wardrobe, a beautiful pale pink one with embroidered flowers. "And what about these? Your clothes are so nice. Can you help me pick something for the festival next week?" Sasuke's eyes brightened. "Of course. Clothes can be a way to tell a story without words. Let's find something that makes you feel like yourself." Together, they explored the collection, mixing and matching scarves, tunics, and soft fabrics. Sasuke showed them how different colors and textures could change the whole feeling of an outfit. As the afternoon passed, laughter filled the room. The friends tried on clothes, shared makeup tips, and told stories about their favorite colors and styles. For Sasuke, the day was a reminder that sharing what you love could bring people closer and make ordinary moments feel magical. When Sakura and Ino left, Sasuke smiled to herself, feeling grateful. She knew her path was still unfolding, but with friends by her side and small joys to cherish, every day held new possibilities. The golden afternoon sunlight filtered softly through the windows of Sasuke's home as Sakura and Ino gathered around the small table she had set with delicate cups of herbal tea. The scent of mint and chamomile mingled with the faint floral notes from Sasuke's blooming plants. The atmosphere was calm, inviting, a little bubble of peace away from the usual busyness of the village. Sasuke sat with a relaxed smile, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Today felt different, lighter. Sharing her world with her friends brought a new kind of warmth she hadn't often allowed herself to feel before. As the tea steamed gently in their cups, she carefully opened a box she had prepared for this afternoon. Inside were rows of soft eyeshadows, lip balms, and brushes, each chosen with care. "I'm glad you both came," Sasuke said softly. "I've never really shown this part of me to many people." Ino leaned forward with genuine curiosity. "It's wonderful, Sasuke. You've created a beautiful collection. What inspired you to start?" Sasuke's gaze drifted for a moment as memories fluttered across her mind like leaves in a gentle breeze. "After many years of chaos and hard times, I needed something peaceful, something I could control and enjoy on my own terms. Makeup became that for me, a quiet way to feel like myself." Sakura nodded knowingly. "I get that. Finding small things that bring peace is so important." The friends shared a soft smile, the kind that speaks of understanding without needing many words. Sasuke carefully selected a pale peach shade and showed Sakura how to apply it with delicate strokes to highlight her natural glow. Ino watched intently, asking questions about the colors and techniques. Soon, laughter bubbled up as the three tried different shades and combinations, experimenting with playful designs and gentle sparkles. Sasuke's earlier shyness melted away, replaced by the simple joy of friendship and creativity. Later, they moved on to the wardrobe corner. Sasuke opened the doors wide, revealing her assortment of clothes hung neatly by color and fabric type. "Clothing can tell stories too," she said with a quiet excitement. "It's about how you want to feel, not just what you wear." Ino picked up a soft scarf with intricate embroidery and draped it around her neck. "This feels like a warm hug," she said with a smile. Sasuke nodded, pleased. Exactly. I've learned that comfort is just as important as style. When I feel good in what I wear, it helps me face the day with courage. Sakura selected a tunic in gentle lavender. I love this. It's simple, but there's something calming about it. Together, they shared stories behind the pieces, Sasuke describing how she had picked each fabric or color during visits to the village market or from gifts from friends. Her collection wasn't about extravagance but about meaning, little reminders of love, friendship, and hope. As the afternoon sun dipped lower, casting a warm glow across the room, the three friends sat back, content and relaxed. Sasuke felt a peaceful strength settle within her, a quiet assurance that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The day before their much-anticipated girls' trip, Sasuke's cozy apartment buzzed softly with excitement. The usually calm space was filled with the gentle rustling of fabric, the clinking of small containers, and quiet chatter between Sasuke, Sakura, and Ino as they prepared for their adventure. Sasuke sat cross-legged on the floor amid a scattered assortment of clothes and accessories. Her suitcase lay open beside her, already half filled with carefully folded garments. She reached for a soft lavender scarf embroidered with tiny flowers, a favorite she insisted on bringing along, no matter the weather. I still can't believe we're finally doing this, Sakura said, pulling out a lightweight jacket from her bag. Her eyes sparkled with anticipation. A whole weekend just for us, away from the usual noise. Ino grinned, holding up a bright pink hair ribbon. I'm packing way too many things, but I want to be ready for anything. Sasuke smiled gently, watching her friend's joyful energy. She was a little more reserved but no less thrilled. For her, packing was an art, a careful balance of comfort and style, with a sprinkle of thoughtful touches. She pulled out a small pouch filled with her favorite makeup items, soft pink lip balm, a delicate shimmer for her eyelids, and a few brushes. I think I'll bring these along, she said quietly, tucking them neatly into a side pocket. Sakura laughed softly. Only you would have a whole makeup set for a trip like this. It's not just about looking nice, Sasuke replied, her eyes brightening. It's about feeling calm and confident. These little things help me remember who I am, even when everything around me changes. Ino nodded in understanding. I get that. Sometimes, it's the small comforts that make the biggest difference. The girls began sorting through their clothes together, laying out options for daytime hikes, cozy evenings by the fire, and even a special outfit for the village festival happening nearby during their stay. Sasuke carefully selected soft fabrics in shades of blues and grays, blending practicality with a quiet elegance. Sakura, ever the colorful spirit, picked brighter patterns and cheerful scarves. Ino chose a mix of sporty and stylish pieces, ready for adventure but also for relaxation. As they packed, they shared stories and laughter, reminiscing about past memories and dreaming about the days ahead. Sasuke found herself opening up more than usual, talking about her hopes for the trip, to see the forest waterfalls, try the special herbal tea from a mountain vendor, and simply enjoy moments of quiet friendship. When the last item was folded and tucked away, Sasuke zipped her suitcase closed and looked around the room. The soft piles of clothes, the scattered makeup brushes, and the happy chatter made her heart feel full. This trip will be something special, she said softly. It already is, Sakura replied with a warm smile. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow through the windows, Sasuke felt a quiet excitement bloom inside her, a promise of new memories waiting to be made. The morning sun peeked over the distant hills, painting the sky with soft hues of pink and orange as Sasuke, Sakura, and Ino stepped out of their small inn. The air was crisp and fresh, filled with the scent of pine trees and blooming wildflowers. The girls pulled their scarves a little tighter around their necks and smiled at each other, ready to make the most of their special trip. Their first adventure was a hike to a nearby waterfall known for its sparkling, crystal-clear waters. The path wound gently through the forest, dappled sunlight filtering through the leaves above. Birds chirped melodiously, and the soft crunch of their footsteps blended with the sounds of nature. Sasuke took the lead, her calm confidence guiding the group. As they walked, she pointed out different plants and herbs she recognized, sharing little stories about their uses. That one is called mint, she said softly, touching a leaf. It can be brewed into a tea that helps with relaxing. Sakura bent down to examine a cluster of bright blue flowers. They're so pretty. I wish I could take a bouquet back home. Ino laughed. We can't bring the whole forest with us, silly. They paused often to take pictures, laugh at playful squirrels, and savor the peaceful moments that came with being far from the village's usual bustle. When they finally reached the waterfall, its cool mist greeted them like a gentle hug. The water sparkled like diamonds as it tumbled over smooth stones into a clear pool below. Sasuke took off her shoes and dipped her toes into the refreshing water, her face lighting up with quiet happiness. "It feels so good," she said. Sakura and Ino followed, splashing and laughing as they enjoyed the coolness. They played a gentle game of skipping stones, cheering each other's throws and teasing when a stone barely made it across the water. After drying off on a large rock warmed by the sun, the girls spread out a simple picnic of fresh fruits, rice balls, and herbal tea Sasuke had prepared earlier. They ate slowly, savoring both the food and the quiet beauty around them. Later in the afternoon, the group explored a nearby meadow carpeted with wildflowers in every color imaginable. Sasuke wandered among the blooms, gently touching petals as if greeting old friends. "This reminds me of the garden my mother once tended," she said softly, a nostalgic smile playing on her lips. Sakura twirled among the flowers, her scarf flying behind her like a banner of joy. "I love this place. It's like a secret world." Ino found a patch of soft grass and invited everyone to sit. "Let's just rest here a little while. I want to remember this moment." As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting everything with golden light, Sasuke felt a quiet sense of gratitude. The trip wasn't just about fun, it was about finding peace, sharing laughter, and creating memories that would warm their hearts long after they returned home. The sun had dipped completely below the horizon, leaving the sky a deep shade of navy sprinkled with twinkling stars. The girls returned to their cozy little inn, tired but happy from the day's adventures. Sasuke helped carry in their belongings, her calm presence a comforting anchor after the excitement of the hike and meadow. Inside, the inn's common room glowed softly with the warm flicker of a wood-burning stove. The scent of pine and a hint of sweet herbs filled the air. The girls gathered around a low table, where they spread out the simple meal they had brought back: steamed dumplings, fresh vegetables, and warm cups of herbal tea brewed from the leaves Sasuke had picked earlier. Sasuke carefully poured the tea, her hand steady and graceful. She smiled softly as she watched her friends take their first sips, their faces relaxing in contentment. The gentle clinking of teacups and soft conversation created a peaceful melody. As the evening grew quieter, Sakura pulled out a small music box she had brought along. Its delicate tune filled the room with a gentle lullaby, weaving through the warm light and cozy blankets. Sasuke closed her eyes for a moment, letting the music wrap around her like a soft hug. Ino suggested they share stories, and one by one, they told tales from their childhoods, funny mishaps, secret dreams, and cherished memories. Sasuke listened with a quiet smile, occasionally sharing her own stories of growing up, of challenges she had faced, and moments of joy she had found along the way. Wrapped in the soft glow of the firelight and the comfort of friendship, Sasuke felt a deep sense of peace. The trip, the laughter, the simple rituals of the evening, they were threads weaving together a tapestry of warmth and belonging. The night stretched on gently, filled with whispered hopes and quiet laughter, a perfect close to a day full of new adventures. Morning light filtered gently through the window screens, casting a soft glow over the simple wooden floorboards. Sasuke awoke feeling a peaceful stillness in the air, different from the usual rush of her daily routine. Outside, the village was already stirring, filled with the gentle sounds of neighbors greeting one another and children's laughter weaving through the streets. As she stepped outside, Sakura and Ino greeted her with bright smiles, holding something wrapped carefully in cloth. "We wanted to give you a little something before the day begins," Sakura said, eyes twinkling with excitement. Together, they wandered toward the heart of the village, which had transformed overnight. Colorful decorations hung from every lantern post, and the scent of sweet pastries and fresh fruit floated in the breeze. Today was the day of the village celebration, a time when everyone came together to share stories, food, and music. Sasuke unwrapped the gift to find a delicate comb fashioned from polished wood, inlaid with tiny, shimmering beads that caught the sunlight. "It's beautiful," she murmured, carefully placing it in her hair. Ino grinned. "We thought it would match your style perfectly, and remind you that we're always here for you." The morning passed with a joyful rhythm. There were playful competitions, weaving workshops, and stalls offering handmade trinkets and treats. The trio moved from booth to booth, tasting sweet rice cakes, trying their hands at crafting, and sharing soft laughter. Later, Sasuke found a quiet spot beside a gently flowing creek. She watched the water ripple over smooth stones, feeling a quiet gratitude swell inside her chest. This trip wasn't just about seeing new places, it was about feeling connected, to her friends, to the village, and most importantly, to herself. As twilight painted the sky with soft purples and golds, the festival lights flickered on, glowing like tiny stars hung among the trees. The friends settled beneath a large cherry blossom tree, its petals fluttering softly around them. Sasuke looked at Sakura and Ino, her heart full. "Thank you, for the kindness, for the laughter, and for this wonderful journey," she said softly. "Being here with you has shown me how important it is to cherish these quiet moments." Sakura reached over and squeezed her hand warmly. "We're so lucky to have you in our lives, Sasuke. This trip is just the beginning." With the stars twinkling above and a gentle breeze carrying the scent of blossoms, Sasuke felt a peaceful happiness settle deep within her. The future felt bright and open, full of promise, friendship, and the simple joy of sharing life's beautiful little moments. Thank you all very much for taking the time to listen and engage. Your support means a great deal, and I truly appreciate your attention and interest. This has been a wonderful experience to share, and I look forward to connecting again in the future. With gratitude. 6 Path Weeb. Signing off for now.